work as a senior cybersecurity consultant in data space security. I have overall experience of 6 plus into IT and 3 plus years into cybersecurity. I worked across various domains, uh, be it application level, coding level, analysis, and everything. So we'll look into this. Do not worry. So in the today's topic, we'll be covering one of the most frequently questions asked by the students whenever they want to enroll to cybersecurity. So the question they ask is how much coding is allowed in cybersecurity? How much coding do they actually require? Do they need to learn coding to become a cybersecurity? So we'll cover those topics today, and we'll be covering some following agendas. So we'll be just having some brief introduction to how much coding is required, which places coding is required, where places coding is not required, and some benefits of coding knowledge. How if we know coding, how it is more knowledgeable for us, and what kind of language we'll be using. So let's look into this. So let's begin with the intro, small intro. Okay. So as you can see here, the as like if you are trying to build your career as a beginner in cybersecurity, so in the beginning of cybersecurity, you do not require any knowledge on programming language. So what I mean to say here is, so if in future, if you want to become into higher level designations, then you might require some coding knowledges. But in cybersecurity, it is divided into so many designations that some of the designation you do not need intro means you do not need coding knowledge. So some of them will be you want to go ahead and do assessments. So you want to do some auditing. So those places, those things, we depend more on tools rather than learning coding, because we do not have to code there ourselves. We have to just use the tools, and those tools, using those tools, we will be able to go ahead and get the desired result what we need. So this is a small intro regarding. So we can conclude from the intro that when if you want to build your career into cybersecurity, you do not require coding knowledge. Without having coding knowledge, you can get into cybersecurity and have a very good career. Okay, so basically we will divide few things over here. We will try to see what designations, what all fields we can work on where we do not require coding, and places where we require coding we will be able to see. Okay, and feel free to please text me, message me if you have any queries. So let's get into it. So let's first start with where coding is not required. So most interesting part, and most like students get scared that do they if they do not have any knowledge, how will they survive in cybersecurity? So let's start with this. So there are vulnerabilities and patch mandated task process that requires no knowledge of any programming language. Okay, so be it as I mentioned, there is a process known as VAPT, vulnerability assessment and penetration testing. So in VAPT, from beginning till closure of a project, you do not require any coding knowledge. So as a VAPT project, a cybersecurity analyst will be dependent on tools. So they can be dependent on any automation tool, or they can dependent on any pro tools which are already written in codes by experts, and using those tools we will be able to get the output. And during a penetration testing, we just use the tools which we already have. So those tools will be some professional tools. They could be some tools which are already there installed in Kali. We'll use those tools and we will be able to go ahead and test. So identity and access management requires barely require any knowledge about scripts. So there are some automated tools where only we need to just provide the target IP or the target URL which is provided through the client to us, and we just provide that and we run the scripts, And in the back end, the scripts, all the automated scripts keep on running, and whichever they found any vulnerability, they'll be able to go ahead and give us the output. So this is a job of a VAPT. We as a cybersecurity analyst can work like that in VAPT, where we just go ahead and run the automation tools, and wherever we find any kind of issues, we just report those issues. So, while performing a VAPT, a cybersecurity analyst, they do not require a coding knowledge, as I said. And during some cybersecurity compliance like PCI, audits, security framework development, SEIM, SOC, most require tool knowledge. So SOC, where we just have to make sure that the organization we are working, they do not get any kind of cyber attacks. So looking at those, seeing it through the firewall if any kind of unusual activities are not happening there. So those are everything we do with the help of a tool. So for the closure of projects and penetration testing, we require knowledge on tools. Like I said, there are various tools. If we can take some examples, suppose we want to just check a SQL injection attack. So we want to check some cross-site scripting attack over there. So all those things, we already have some tools. We have some tools like Burp Suite Pro. We have some NetSparker. We have a SQL map, which is pre-installed in Kali. That is a tool where you can just simply run, give the target URL, and it will automatically just detect any kind of SQL injection attack is there. And in cross-site scripting, there are multiple tools. So if we go ahead and try to find out the tools, we will be able to get multiple, not a single. We will be able to see many tools, which we can use for our testing help. Okay, so for penetration testing, most of the time we will be using Burp Suite Pro. So Burp Suite Pro is a very good tool where we just go ahead and capture the request, and it does itself. So it has some extension files in it, and we just need to click on Start Attack, and it automatically starts executing those attacks. I do not have to go and check the code. I do not have to go and check the request and response over there. I just need to click on attack, and it will automatically do the attack and get me the desired result. So as I said, there are some different job designations which you, as a cybersecurity analyst, during your initial phases of your career, can get into your designations. So some is patch management. If a security architect basic need is to make sure the architecture what is followed for the web application or for the network is secured enough to avoid any kind of cyber attack. So there you do not require any coding knowledge. You just need to be precise with the architecture knowledge, where you can do the architecture so smoothly that there is no kind of cyber attack over there. And basically you can go for security audits. Basic in the audits, you just get the IPs or the URLs from your client. Using those clients, we will use some automators and pro tools like Nessus if we want to go and check any kind of network. So a Nessus tool, we will just scan the IPs, and it has almost all 70,000 plus plugins, and those plugins itself will go ahead and back and go and test everything. And in the end, we will get a detailed report. We need to analyze the report, and as a part of a penetration tester, we just need to go ahead and perform the testing. So if ever required any kind of testing, so those everything, those payloads, everything, the code to execute that payload will also be there on the internet. We just need to follow some steps properly, use the tools properly, and we can get to our desired output. So this is part of where we do not require coding. And the list is very vast than what I mentioned here. This is just few of the list. Now audit, cybersecurity management, cyber threat intelligence, and many others. Now coming back to areas where we might require a cybersecurity coding. So if we have a knowledge about coding, that gives us a benefit over a cybersecurity career. What I mean by here, there are few fields where you need to have a coding knowledge. From my experience, I have worked on code analysis also, over 200 projects. So in those code analysis, so what we As a cybersecurity analyst, my part of job was to make sure to analyze the code through automated tool and see that there is no secure like any vulnerability based on the code level. So automated tool, there are many automated tools which go ahead and do the code analysis also. Few examples are 45. So those codes will be analyzed based on the uh, code, means code level. They will be doing the VAPT. Okay, so they'll be scanning, they'll be checking if in through code level is there any kind of vulnerability is there. So if we take example of a small cross-site scripting, it will go ahead and check if there is enough validation done from the code level. So for that, you require some knowledge of the code to understand what that code is and how is it protected or not. If not, how it can be protected. So basically, we need to provide remediations to the developers. So this is a separate field where you become known as a SAST. If we go and get to see the designation, it's called as a SAST analyst, which is basically source code analysis. Apart from that, coding gives you a upper hand if you want to go ahead and make some changes in the payloads. So suppose during your experienced career where you have enough experience that you're working on some projects and you require to make some changes in the payload. So suppose a particular payload is not working. So in that case, if you have a coding knowledge, you'll have an upper hand where you can go ahead and create your own payload or make any changes in the payload to go and start performing the attack. So VAPT, some cybersecurity positions will require a programming if you want to become a security programmer. So if you want to become a security programmer or security developer, so this is a very fast booming field where now a company does not require only a developer, not just a full stack developer. They require a security developer where a developer should have knowledge on cybersecurity and they should know what all cybersecurity points they need to cover to make sure that the code is safe and secure and there is no kind of cyber attacks happening on that code. So there is a huge demand these days and the pay scale is very high, but that is a separate field as a security developer. So if a cybersecurity wants to become a source code analyst, they need to have coding knowledge to understand what vulnerability it is. The coding knowledge, the vulnerability list is divided into basic different OASP list. It could be cross-site scripting, it could be SQL, it could be header injection, it could be content security policy is not proper, or it could be as simple as the code hashing technique is not proper. So all these kind of vulnerabilities are shown as part of the report, and we as an analyst have to go ahead and check the code and see if that issue is actually correct or is they have handled in some other way. So positions like there are various positions. The positions like code security, which I mentioned here, malware analysis, where they need to go and check the malware and see if the malware coding is done in proper way, that and that there is no kind of malware attack happening. So there is a malware analysis also. In penetration testing, it is debatable. A penetration testing could be in different ways. First, a penetration testing could be, as I mentioned, as simple as you do not have to run the payload. But once you're an experienced guy, if you're experienced, highly skilled enough, then you, during your penetration testing, you can build your own payloads or you can make some changes on the payloads. Second part you can do is reverse engineering. So reverse engineering is basically where a code is written. So they do a reverse engineering to see that whatever has been implemented, is it correct or not. So reverse engineering, for that we require some coding knowledge, a software development, and one more, if you want to work into forensic or if you want to work into any kind of government CIDs, CBI, raw. So in those places, you actually require some coding knowledge. They want you to have coding knowledge because any kind of cyber attack happening over there and you are performing a forensic over there, just trying to check what was the cause of that issue, you require coding knowledge sometimes to generate your own payload and try to check. In those places, sometimes the automated system will be able to detect, but sometimes it will fail. So you be as a cybersecurity analyst should have some knowledge on the coding so that we go ahead and can perform a forensic and generate a payload and go ahead and get the desired. Now, when coming back to coding, so we all know that there are so many coding languages which are there. So I cannot learn all the coding knowledge, right? I cannot learn all the coding language, and coding languages are so vast. For that, we should know how much of coding do I require if I want to learn. We cannot simply learn everything to get. Sometimes we have learned the things which we are actually not required to code and do that. Means that is some extra thing which is not to my use. So let's see some of the coding languages which you can learn during your cybersecurity career. Okay, before that, let's see some coding knowledge benefits. So cybersecurity enable cybersecurity managers. So if you have some coding knowledge, you can become cybersecurity manager who can lead a team to implement projects quickly. So if you're in future, if you're leading a team and if you want the projects to be done very quickly, means even the tools output is not going quickly. So in that case, you can go ahead and make your own payloads or make you can make own changes using codes and get your desired result and get the reports very quickly. Okay. So in second point, you see it helps cybersecurity professionals to get up speed quickly. Okay. You can create your own payloads or modify existing one, and you can work as a source code analysis. Now coming back to which programming language used in cybersecurity. So I have listed down some of these 4 to 5 programming languages. So these 4 to 5 programming languages are more than enough for us to go ahead and work as a good cybersecurity analyst because these 5 programming languages knowledge will be more than enough. We'll be able to get the 80% of the things done from our side if we have this knowledge. So first, let's see. It's C and C++. So a C and C++ can be useful for reverse engineering and finding vulnerabilities. So reverse engineering, as I mentioned, if you're having code knowledge and you're working as a reverse engineering, you should have knowledge on C and C++. That gets you a upper hand to work and during finding vulnerabilities. So a lot of malware is written on C++ program language. So now if you want to do a malware analysis, if you want to become a malware analyst, you should have a C++ knowledge. And thus learning C++ knowledge is important for reading and understanding an open source code, which I mentioned before. So if suppose we found any kind of vulnerability during scanning of some our applications, so if we do a source code analysis of some applications, those applications are built in during different using different programming languages. So if we come across a programming language which is built on C++, yes, that we have to, for that we need to have C++ knowledge to understand the code. Now coming back to a second point, which is very important, Python. So Python is one of the most important and widely used coding languages in cybersecurity. So we will be using tools during a cybersecurity. Whatever tools we use, most of the tools are written in Python. So we need to have knowledge on Python. As a cybersecurity, I would always suggest we need some knowledge, basic knowledge on Python to execute the codes or to execute the tool. And most of the payloads today are written in Python. The reason is that Python is very versatile. It's very simple. There are courses of Python during us. data space security, where you can learn Python, and using that Python, it gives you upper hand where you can go ahead and make your own payload when required. So Python can be used for accomplishing multiple tasks such as host discovery, accessing servers, port scanning, network scanning. So if you want to do any kind of network scanning, you can use some inbuilt tools like Nmap, which is built is Kali. So those tools are more than enough for you to go ahead and do the whole network scanning. There are different. It has so many scripts over there, so many payloads over there that you can go ahead and do different kind of uh, task over there. You can do some. You can just go ahead and see how many hosts are up into a network. As simple as that. More to that, you can just go ahead and do some port scannings. You can just see what all ports are opened, what all ports are opened, so that you can go ahead and do some performance and go to some more attack over there. Then accessing servers, some port scanning, and during network scanning. So even we can do some network scanning to that. There are different commands which you can use. Coming back to the third point, which is JavaScript. So JavaScript is basically a programming language which you should have knowledge, basic knowledge for understanding and performing XSX, HTML injection attacks, any kind of vulnerability you find in the front end layer of the application, where where the coding language used is JavaScript. So I repeat over here, there are tools which are already there written where you do not require any coding languages. You just have to do give the injection point, and you can get other cross-site scripting attack. Like cross-site scripting vulnerabilities, you'll be able to get it. There is an XSX strike, and using burp also you can get it. Automated tools like NetSpark. We can just give the URL and it will give me the any kind of cross-site scripting attack is there or not. However, if you are testing, if you have knowledge on JavaScript, so you can go ahead and see in the code why the particular payload is not working, and you can make some changes, or you can understand the code and try to build your own payloads and go ahead and get the attack done. So a basic knowledge in JavaScript is more than enough for you to understand, which is not tough to understand. But if not, there is no problem. We have more than enough tools to get our work done. Then comes the PHP. PHP server is a server-side programming language which is used to develop website. So PHP, we call it as a backend language. So that is used on the server side. So it enables cybersecurity professionals to implement robust solution to web secure applications. So if we want to go ahead and do the uh, application we want to go ahead and build, and from the server level we want to do some changes, build the payload, or if we see that application has been built on the PHP level from the server side, so our payloads have to be built on the PHP level to try to find the vulnerability over there. Last but not the least is SQL. So I hope we know what is SQL. If not, then I'll just give a small brief that SQL is basically used for database. So as SQL, so all the applications use SQL to connect their database to the application. So if you have knowledge on SQL, then you will have an upper hand trying to understand how the web application is sending the request to the database. If we are able to get it, if the things are not done properly over there, then you can go ahead and make the changes and get into the database. It will be as simple as that. So data for SQL, you do not require in-depth knowledge like SQL database admin whose job is to go ahead and build the database. But we, as a cybersecurity analyst, we do not want to have that knowledge. If you have basic knowledge of how a query is generating, what different kind of queries we are doing, It could be as simple as select query, where I just want to go ahead and select thing, or will be as simple as I want to update something, I want to insert something, I want to delete something. So these are some basic examples of what an SQL query could be. If we have knowledge, if we have this knowledge, we can go ahead and try to damage the application which we are testing more vigorously. But there are some tools also for that, right? Well, as a cybersecurity analyst, you can take some break. Okay, fine. I have some tools which are be able to do the job for me during your initial. So you can go and I just give one example of SQL map, or you can just there are multiple payloads. Some automated tools you just capture the request, you send the payloads over there, and boom, the task is done. So I hope we got to know what are programming languages we can understand. Some coding, what all codings are required. What what designation can I get if I don't know coding? And what designation can I get if I know coding? And how coding is benefit for me? If a coding is benefit, so we'll be able to see. So as a student, I during my initial stages of my career, I do not have to worry about programming languages. You can easily crack jobs if you have basic knowledge on tools, how to test it, how to get the result. You can make your career in cybersecurity without having any coding knowledge, because we will be able to teach you different tools, the famous tools, the most used tools in the MNCs or in the corporate world. So those tools will be more than enough for you to go and get your task done. Create the outputs. You can generate the outputs, you can generate the reports what you want. But if you have programming knowledge, how it will be more benefit for you, that also you can understand. For that you can get and start getting it done during your later stages of your career, where once you become expertise or you have experience for 2 to 3 years plus, when you want to aim high for some other positions, or you have some you want to get to a position where you want to actually implement a or you want to make a tool out of your tool for yourself. All the black hat has today, they do not go ahead and do any programming languages on their own. They will only the most of the black hat hackers today rely on the tools, because there are so many tools in the market these days. Tools which are best. I mean, they will get the work done for you. So, in the end, wrapping up, so I would just like to conclude with a very simple statement that a cybersecurity analyst does not need to have knowledge on coding. Without having a coding knowledge, you can become a cybersecurity analyst. So if you have a cybersecurity programming language, it will be a very good point to your resume or a icing on the cake. But we have some tools where we can get them. So while a lot of entry-level cybersecurity positions do not require programming skills, as I said, it is one of the crucial skills to in some mid-level and upper level, when you want to become managers or when you want to become a senior, you want to lead some team, you should have a programming language, you should have knowledge on that. And more with some knowledge, at least one program is you may be able to advance it. So if you want to get a upper hand on something, so you can start learning, but it's not from the initial level. In the initial level, without even you can work to your desired cybersecurity analyst role in the future. So that's all I had in my mind right now. So let's look for some. If you have any questions, you can just ping me. I'll answer to it. So there are some different programs which are there in data space security. Feel free to please always visit. And We are always there to help you and consult you and guide you whatever you require. If you want to require have knowledge on the coding part, for that also we have. If you want to resume your career without coding, we are here for you. We'll be guiding you, teaching you all the required things which you do not require any coding thing. Yet you will be able to get your job very safe, very secure. So, any questions, guys? Yeah, look like no question is there. No problem, guys. So, thank you, everyone. Thank you for your time. Thank you for giving me your time and trying to understand how much coding knowledge or is coding knowledge really required to understand and get into your cybersecurity career. My name is Davinder Singh, and bye bye. Have a nice day.